Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is 3 p.m. here in Chicago, Illinois. That means it's time for another live stream. Today is Friday, February 19th, 2021. Getting close to the end of February. Not quite end of February yet. We're getting close to the end of February. I feel like we're rounding the corner on the worst of winter, hopefully. I know for a lot of you guys, maybe you are, maybe you aren't seeing this if you guys don't have power or having problems with water still, but a lot of people still struggling with the weather and everything that's going on, especially those of you down in Texas. But I feel like, at least for Chicago here, I think we got 1 or 2 more days of like real cold left. And then like, I think I saw like a 39 degrees for the high coming up like on Tuesday or something. So like, I know there's probably going to be one more kind of like circling back to colder weather, but I feel like if it does, it won't quite get back as cold as this. So I'm calling it now. I'm being optimistic about it. I feel like the worst of winter, like we're near it. We're like at the cusp of it. We've got 1 or 2 more days. I'm feeling really good. A nice sunny day for my run today. So I'm feeling optimistic, but I'm also feeling tired. It feels like it's been a really long week. How are you guys doing today? We're at Friday. We made it, guys. But I'm tired. All right. Before I start wallowing too much on how tired I am today, let's say hi to everybody. Let me adjust this camera. Let's say hi to everybody listening on the audio version on the podcast. Hope you guys are having a good run today. And for everyone watching this on YouTube after the fact, welcome. I appreciate you guys. Let's see who's here today. Curtis Lost got here super early, throwing in some good vibes. And let's see. Philip Bourne says, "Good day, everyone. Run streak day 50 in the books. Easy 11K with Laura the dog. Now at 575 Ks for the year. Nice. That's a nice long run streak." He says he's still tired, but feeling heaps better than the last days. Paracetamol is such a great thing. I don't know what that is. I'm not sure what paracetamol is. All right. Terrence says Kofuzi is right. The Peregrine 11 in Icon, that retro jazz version. It's like that navy color. It's like navy and cream. It's just a nice combo. Looks gorgeous. It's too bad the Kinvar 12 version looks a bit odd. I mean, I think all of them look good. I don't know. I really enjoy them all. And this is here says hi Kofuzi and everyone. And Stevie says, in your Friday celebrity news, Kim and Kanye officially divorced. Oh no. You never want to like to hear about that. I mean, I'm assuming it's for the best, but you know, they had actually been together for a while. But they divorced. They share 4 children, daughters North and Chicago, and sons Saint and Psalm. Those are some names. Interesting. John Ritchie says, hi, Kofuzi, great video today. If running becomes a Winter Olympic sport, you're definitely in the medals. Yeah. If it becomes like a weird, I mean, maybe like there'll be like a running version of like the gymnastics competition that uses the implements, whether it's the ball or the ribbon or the hoop. You know, like if there's something that was running, but like judging also in it, then I think I would have like that would be my only chance of like an Olympic dream. Like if there was like a running version of equestrian, although I guess there kind of is with steeplechase, but one that's just not like purely like talent based or like skill based, one that's just kind of like, I don't know, I can make running look nice. If that was an Olympic event, maybe I'd have a shot. Otherwise, no, I don't. I'm not going to get anywhere near. I mean, I'm also 41, so like there's not a lot of unless you're Abdi Abdurrahman, then you can still be in the Olympics. But I've been thinking a lot about the Olympics today. Been listening to. Did you guys start listening to the Road to the Trials podcast? Matt Chinham started putting that out. I'm pretty excited for it. I'm not that familiar with any of the athletes other than Kira D'Amato. I know who that is. And then, I'm vaguely aware of like who the other people are, but I'm not familiar with their stories or their personalities or anything. So I'm excited about that. And then he did kind of like a preview pod about the Road to the Trials podcast series with Mario Fraioli and Lindsey Hein. And that was like a super fun conversation to listen to. It makes me wish that there was like another podcast, kind of like in the Actors Studio. Remember that? Like, I feel like I wish that there were like, I don't know. I just like it when professionals talk shop. I just like listening to that. And so like whether it's YouTubers talking about YouTubing or podcasters talking about podcasting, I really enjoy that kind of thing. So it kind of felt that way in a sense. when they were talking about, like, I felt like they were just like, they kind of forgot what they were doing and they just started talking about stuff that they were excited about for a little bit. And that's when it got really good to me. But yeah, I've been thinking about that. I've also been thinking about that Trial of Miles competition coming up, the track meet coming up I think it's next week. Yeah. Starting next Friday, I think, a week from today. Mainly because it's in Austin, and Austin's like frozen solid right now still, I think. And but it's going to be 70 degrees there next week. And then, but I feel like the competition is going to be pretty intense. There's going to be a lot of people going down there for that track meet. So I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to be streamed live for free on YouTube, on the Citius Mag YouTube channel. So pretty excited about that. Getting pumped up. Excited to see some more racing. All right. Steven Gerzer says, hello, everybody. What's going on, Steven? Tony Massey says, happy Friday. Glad to be able to catch one of these live again. It's been a while. Well, it's good to see you, Tony. And it's good to have you back, and happy Friday to you too as well. Yeah. Oh, you guys are like betting whether or not I'm going to be on time today. See, yes, on time. All right. I got to scroll down to the bottom. All right. You got Des. Oh, Des Fitz here. What's going on, Des? Seriously impressed with your consistency with the streams. Always a great listen. Well, thanks, Des. I didn't know you were listening, so I'm honored. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks for the comment today. All right. We got Steven says, when Kipchoge drops out of the top tier of marathoners, he should consider ultras. Imagine, he'd be a beast. I mean, do you think he'd be interested in that? I don't know. That'd be interesting. Race Mob, what's going on, Race Mob? Says, giving us some idea on future podcast episodes. Cool. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to talk about. And I feel like, I was listening to, what was I listening to today? I was listening to a podcast. I think it was an interview with, what's the name of the podcast? For the Long Run, who's interviewing Chris Chavez of Citius Mag. And they were talking about how sometimes they feel like the podcast scene is very saturated. And every time someone says like something is saturated, unless you're talking about something that has a very high barrier to entry, like, constructing a physical device. Like if we're talking about like making a new mobile phone that you want to sell to a global audience, that has barriers to entries. And when the market gets saturated, it's very difficult to make money on it. That's one thing. We're talking about things like YouTube, blogs, and podcasts. When people say things are too saturated, that just tells me that means there's a lot of room for that differentiation. And so when people want to get really, really narrow and start talking, I mean, if there were a podcast that like, imagine there was someone that took like a rich roll approach to talking to creators and didn't talk about like, what are you making now, but talk to them like on a like creator level. Like, I think that would be really interesting. And like, it could get like as technical as they needed it to, as they wanted it to be, kind of like I love listening to Dave Chang. I'm not that interested in like high level cuisine. I don't even really like going to restaurants that much, frankly. But I love listening to a podcast because he talks about his process, not only from creating a dish, but how to like manage a restaurant, which is very different than creating a dish, and how to manage several restaurants or a food empire. And so like, those are the things that I find really fascinating, and I can find nuggets to draw out of that. And you learn a lot about him in the process that you don't learn from watching him eat food from all over the world. So it's very different. So I just feel like, that's my take on when people say things are saturated, when the barriers to entry are very low. That just means the opportunity to get very creative are very ripe. All right. Tato, I don't know how to say that. Tato Tjep, I think that's right. Tato Jep says, or maybe Tato Chip says, greetings from 10 p.m. Netherlands. Well, thank you for tuning in late. Had multiple runs in the snow and ice weather without slipping last week. Now everything is thawed and warm, but fell during yesterday's 10K facepalm. Yeah. I was just thinking about the transition as things are going to get warmer here too. And I was telling my wife like, I'm really looking forward to some of these temperatures when we finally get like above freezing. But I'm like, but you know what? I just remembered. Whenever the seasons change in Chicago, it gets so windy and so blustery. So it's almost like you want it to kind of stay like right around the freezing point in Chicago. Because when we start to make that shift, it just gets so windy. And in a lot of ways, you feel a lot colder. So Yeah, the transition is difficult. Transition is difficult as much as we look forward to it. Yeah, Ben Weiss said, I enjoyed the Eliud Kipchoge interview on Believe in the Run. He's a fan of Kelly Clarkson. I didn't get a chance. I didn't have time to watch the whole thing, but that's really funny that he's a fan of Kelly Clarkson. I don't think he runs with earbuds in, but can you imagine if he's just running and he's just jamming out to like, I don't know, what was it? What was he on? Like American Idol, like Best of. Is that what she was on? Isn't that how she got famous, or whatever that is? And what is she on now? That other show, the other singing show, the one with the chairs that swivel around, right? I don't know. I think that'd just be amazing. I think it'd be like if you found out that, like, I don't know, if you find out like Parker Stinson is listening to like just jamming out to like early Katy Perry, like that. It's like the same kind of revelation. And just be like, that doesn't seem to fit. Doesn't fit with any of the Instagram stories that he's putting out. But man, if that's what he likes and that's what gets him moving, awesome. Kayla Jean says, the interview with Eliud Kipchoge was really helpful for my run today. Weather in Tampa wasn't as helpful. I had a mind of its own. Also need to look into strengthening my calves and prevent cramping. Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to like taking a deeper dive into that conversation. I think that's amazing. I don't think I've ever seen him talk like for an extended period of time before. So to me, that in and of itself is just fascinating. And I think it's cool that they were able to get some footage. I don't know if they like just drop shipped that entire intro to Thomas, or if they were like, here's some raw footage that we normally like give out. If you want to edit it into something, you can. I don't know if who put that intro together, at least on the YouTube version. But it was nice. It looked nice. Meredith Roseman says, I'm so excited for the Olympics. Yeah, I'm very excited too. Because I feel like, a lot of times, like the Olympics is just like, it's exciting because you get to root for, you root for the US, and it's just exciting because you're like the world's best and you're just seeing the best of the best. But I feel like over the last 4 years, as running has taken a different kind of significance in my life over the last 4 years, I'm just becoming much more familiar with a lot of the stories. So I'm not relying on like the NBC like packaged story that comes on before the event to like help me understand who to root for or what to look out for. I know, or not a lot, I couldn't commentate the Olympics, but like, or any of the events, frankly, but but there's stories that I know, there's names that I recognize, and I think that's pretty fun. All right, we got a running question, a shoe question here, which is, he says, sorry, this is Soham Saraf says, sorry, this is a bit off topic, but you can always, everyone feel free to drop in a question, especially if you came here with a question today, feel free to drop it in there and I'll do my best to get to it. If I don't see it right away, put it in again. I don't mean to make you repeat yourselves, but I want to make sure you get your questions answered. Soham says, sorry, this is a bit off topic, but tell me which shoe I should choose, the Endorphin Speed versus Zoom Fly 3, and which is more responsive and durable. So, you got to tell, Soham, the nice thing about doing this as a live stream is that I can ask you some follow-up questions. So what are you trying to use it for? Right. And so like different shoes kind of have different purposes. Now the Zoom Fly 3 and the Endorphin Speed kind of fit in the same like area. And I would put that in either marathon racing or long marathon or maybe threshold speeds. So the Zoom Fly 3, I felt like was a little bit heavy. So I don't love it for like track work, for example. It's also pretty tall. So I wouldn't want it for track work or maybe even like mile pace efforts or even 5K efforts necessarily. But if we're doing like a long threshold run, some marathon pace miles, some half marathon pace miles, then it's a great shoe. Same with the Endorphin Speed for me. So I like him kind of the same way. Which is more responsive? I don't know. I think the Zoom Fly 3 might be a bit more responsive, and because the React foam is a little bit like, bouncier, I don't know. I just happen to have this pencil. It's not necessarily a problem. But like when you hit the ground, it bounces back a little bit more. But I think, and it has a carbon fiber plate, so you're getting really strong push from behind almost. It's like someone's pushing your foot as you're taking off. But I think I probably like the Endorphin Speed a little bit more. I just feel like the way that nylon plate is in there still gives me a nice amount of kind of that carbon feel to it, or carbon type feel to it. But even at marathon speeds, I'm still getting a good sense of push from it. So I probably like that a little bit more. Which one's more durable? I think the Zoom Fly 3 is going to be a little bit more durable. So, I mean, it depends on like which shoe you should choose. Depends on what else you have, what you're looking to do with this shoe, and how much the durability is really important to you. So I'll scroll down. Let me see if you got anything in here. Yeah, so I'm saying 70, 100 Ks, and I just started doing about 50 K a marathon. So yeah, I mean, I think I would go with the endorphin speed for you. I'm assuming that you also have like a daily trainer, and then maybe also a max cushion shoe or your recovery day shoe. And for your speed shoe, if you're looking to pick one up, then I think the endorphin speed's probably the better choice. I like it a little bit more. Yeah, so that's where I put it. And Stephen Gersdorf says, Soham, you're not off topic because there's no topic. That's absolutely right. Brian James says, going back to like listening to music while I run, says, I'm one of the weird people that can't listen to music while he runs. Yeah, I've not had that problem. I've never had that problem. I've always loved like listening to music while I was running. I'm trying to think if I ever tried to run with an actual Discman. I don't think I did. I ran with a Walkman before, so when it was tapes, I've run with that. I've run with a mini disc player. Do you guys remember those? Mini discs were awesome. I love mini discs. I loved the form factor. It was smaller. It was like smaller than a zip disc. Do you guys remember zip discs too? I'm old, but like I love the form factor of it. It's still, if I saw one now, it would seem weird because it's like, why isn't this just like completely electronic? But like I feel like the form factor still feels like relatively modern. I mean, I feel like they either used a zip disc or a mini disc as the thing that everyone was trying to get in Enemy of the State. Do you remember that movie? Will Smith, Gene Hackman, one of my favorite movies. I just really liked it. But I've always loved running with music. But I guess I know a lot of people don't. And there for a while there was a big push, like a mini movement to like get people to stop running with music. And I was like, that's not going to last a very long time. Ed Bud's here. What's going on, Ed? He says, Mike, it appears your city was within a new ice age. Are you contemplating some Innovate models? I think you would like the G270. Yeah, I mean it's been cold. Things are thawing. Things are definitely starting to thaw. And you could tell which cars haven't moved in several days because they're just buried under like over a foot of snow, like still on top of them. And it's just really quite comical. My daughters and I were out for our walk today, and we saw a giant snow pile. And we were kind of like arguing with each other whether or not we thought there was a car underneath. Because it was kind of at the corner. So it could have just been like, that's like, it was an empty corner. So like the snow pile was just shoved a whole bunch of snow there, but it was kind of like in the shape and height, a little bit taller than a car. So it was there. And we're like, I don't know. I was like, I don't think that there's a car under there. And my daughters thought there was. They were like, we think there's a little car under there. I think that they were kind of hoping that there was like a little like secret igloo underneath there or something like that. Their imagination started going wild. But I'm like, I don't know. I just think that's a big snow pile. But yeah, it's been crazy. But I'm not really looking at Innovate models. I just don't. I mean, I've not tried anything Innovate before. If I were to do anything Innovate, I'd probably look at some of their gear, maybe like a jacket or a pack, because I feel like their packs are excellent. But the shoes, I think I don't know that I'd like them. I'm guessing that they'd be very like Salomon-like, and I just feel like they would be uncomfortable. So they're as crazy as the conditions have been here lately. Like I was saying at the top of the podcast, I think we're at the tail end of it. So like by the time I got them, it'd be like, I got these, and now what am I going to do with it? So I think they would just end up sitting around. But I don't know. Perhaps if we go, I mean, I would love, and we'll see what's going on with like the vaccine schedules and everything. But I would love to be able to. Do you need something? My daughter's here. I would love to be able to go back to Iowa for a stretch this summer. Once hopefully we all have vaccines and the kids can like actually be with their cousins and grandma and grandpa again, and go to like water parks and theme parks and stuff like that. That's a lot of fun in Iowa. Then I might pick up a couple more trail shoes and just try to really get lost in some places, which shouldn't be too hard for me. But like, then maybe I'll pick up one, but I don't know. I was looking at the Solomon page today, though, for the Index shoe, that like recycled shoe, or that recycled and recyclable shoe. So I was looking at that. I put myself on the wait list for like the email list to get notified, but I think I've already done that like 2 or 3 times. But I'd love to get a pair of those and see what that's like. Rami Johanna says, not sure if anyone has asked this yet, but have you tried the Chicago Cubs waffles? A couple of people mentioned that on comments, I think on YouTube or on Twitter. I don't know what that is. I don't know what people are talking about when they say that. So I don't know. I'm actually not a Cubs fan. I mean, I've lived in Chicago for a long time now. But I grew up in New Jersey, and so I grew up watching the Mets. And then I lived in St. Louis during the Mark McGwire era. So then I started, even though they're conference rivals, then I kind of became a Cardinals fan for a long time. And then you just can't go from being a Cardinals fan to being a Cubs fan. So like, I find it's completely acceptable for my daughters to be Cubs fans because they were born and raised in this town. But I mean, I enjoy going to Wrigley Field. I think it's one of the best places in the world to watch baseball, but I'm just not a Cubs fan. So as much as I love the place and I feel like it's a nice historic baseball kind of location, I'm not really a Cubs fan. But if there's a food item I could try, I'll definitely give it a shot. All right. Renee Suarez says, thanks, my dear Kofuzi, for sharing your experiences, knowledge, and time. Thanks. Well, thank you. Thanks, Renee. Hopefully you're having a good season running this year, and thanks for stopping in today. Mark Salzman says, which is the best running watch you'd recommend for a beginner? Hello, that Long Island. I would say, you know what? This is a watch I probably just need to buy to test it out for sure, because I've tried the Garmin 45 and I like it, except for the fact that it is locked down quite a bit and you can't pair a foot pod to it, for example. But the Garmin 245 you can, and I feel like for the price you're getting a lot of watch out of the 245, and a lot of people kind of get it as their like intro watch and then never leave it, and they just stay with it forever. And the Coros Pace 2. So those are the two watches, neither of which I've tried, but I've tried watches that are similar within each of those brands, that I feel like each of those watches at the price points that they are offer quite a bit of bang for the buck. So those are the two that I would look at. All right. Stephen Gerso says, how can you be a vegetarian in Chicago? Probably the worst city in America to be a veggie. I mean, maybe. It's the North Midwest. So, I mean, the food around here is hearty. That's for sure. I tell people that Chicago food is very similar to East Coast food, except it's got a little bit more salt, sugar, and fat in everything. Even stuff that normally wouldn't have one of those things in it. It's got a little bit of everything in there. So, the food is hearty, but, it's a city, so it's large enough that there is a pretty vibrant, like, vegetarian food scene here, and there's always lots of options. So it works out. All right. Oh, David Prabhu says he's a White Sox fan. Nice. Edward said, Mike, I attached the 245 to the Hover Machina, and it works quite well. No nasty app shouting at me for having too slow a cadence. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that the Under Armour foot pods that are baked into the shoe could be attached to other things. Did I know that? I don't think I knew that. Interesting. Sharon Marshall says, I'd say Dallas would be the worst city to be vegetarian in. I don't know. I mean, yeah, because like Texas has all that barbecue. That's fantastic. I mean, if you're going to say that, I mean, I prefer Kansas City style barbecue. I just because I grew up like having Casey Masterpiece from Kraft, like barbecue sauce. So that's kind of like the barbecue style that I like. Just slathered in like really, really sweet ketchup-y barbecue sauce. But, I feel like Dallas is still a big city. So there's probably a lot of options there. I would say probably the toughest place to be a vegetarian would probably be like a very small city. I would say probably like in the Southeast, maybe, where it's very heavy barbecue culture, but maybe not a lot of options or enough population to make like a lot of vegetarian fare be feasible. So I'm thinking like, I don't know, Charleston would probably still be fine, but Asheville actually has a really vibrant vegetarian scene too. So maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe Winston-Salem, maybe maybe that'd be a place where it'd be kind of tough. But even then, that's still a relatively big city. So I don't know. I'll tell you what, it wasn't that easy to be a vegetarian in New Vienna, Iowa. I'll tell you that. Just because a lot of the restaurants we went to, there wasn't really an option for vegetarians. Being a pescatarian opens up a lot and makes it easy. Because there's a very strong Catholic population there. So there's always some sort of fish thing. So that way people can, there are people still, at least during Lent for sure, people avoid meat on Friday. So fish dinners are still popular. So that was, that made it a little bit easier, but it was it wasn't the easiest. I mean, fortunately for us, we were cooking stuff at home. So we weren't going out very often. Or not going out. We didn't go out anywhere. We weren't getting takeout very often, so it wasn't too big a deal. And since I ate fish, it was okay. But yeah, the nearest city to New Vienna is Dubuque, and I don't know what the population in Dubuque is. I think it's under 100,000, so it's not a very big place. I'm not sure that there's a ton of vegetarian restaurants in the area. Brian James does say, though, to back you up, Sean, Texas is the hardest place to be a vegetarian. I went there on vacation a few years back and couldn't get a decent meal. Yeah, well, I can definitely see that it would be difficult. Mike DeSoto says, morning, everybody from Melbourne. Off on my morning jog. Long time listener. Thanks, Mike. Missing Ohio videos, but footage of Chicago equally awesome. Well, thank you very much. Thanks so much, Mike. Hope you have a good run down in Melbourne. I'm envious of you guys and your summer weather right now. Dr. Funk 1216 says, there's a beef running club full of beef lovers who run in Texas. One of these days, I'm going to dress up in a cow onesie, start in a later corral, and try to pass as many of them. That'd be pretty funny. Yeah, that makes sense. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Who was I just listening to that was saying that they love to eat? Oh, no, I wasn't listening to it. Camille Herron, her Twitter account. She was talking about how she's very excited. I don't think it was like a sponsor or anything. But she was talking about how, she really enjoys eating a wide variety of foods and getting her protein from a wide variety of sources. So she had a big steak dinner or something like that. So, I mean, that's, it worked for a lot of people. So that's cool. I think that what's been interesting is, I don't know if it's a Bravey effect or what, but in the book Bravey, Alexi Papas's book, she talks about how when she was a Nike athlete in Oregon, living up in Eugene, that her Nike contract wasn't paying her enough to make all her ends meet. And so she worked her own hustle, and there was a local Eugene farmers market or some sort of market of some sort. And there was a meat guy there. And she worked out a sponsorship where basically in exchange for meat, for product, she would, be a spokesperson for that meat place. And it worked because she was telling in the book how she had met people who had come to that meat vendor at that place specifically because they knew they were following her and they knew that she really liked their stuff. And so clearly it was working. But she was she was some of my teammates were how'd you manage that? How'd you work that out? How'd that fall in your lap? And she's it didn't fall in my lap. I had to find ways to hustle and make my dream work. And this was a way. It was weird. And at the time people were probably that's strange and not the normal way of doing things. But she's that's what I did to make it work. And I feel since then, I've been hearing about people getting more beef sponsors. I don't know, like butcher sponsors and meat sponsors. I feel I've heard about 2 or 3 other ones just lately within the last month. And I just think that were people oh, I should totally do that with the butcher down the street. I mean, it's not a bad idea, I guess. And it also reminds me of Gwen Jorgensen. Who does she have? It's with something eggs. She has an egg sponsor, which I think is actually quite fantastic. I would love to have an egg sponsor. We go through a lot of eggs in our house. We have breakfast for dinner. We had breakfast for dinner yesterday. We have breakfast for dinner several times a month in our house. It's a regular meal. It's breakfast is my favorite meal. And it's a meal that my kids will generally eat a decent amount of the food. So yeah, it just kind of, it works on a lot of levels. Yeah, Will Willing says, hello all, sunny and 45 Fahrenheit, 7 Celsius in the beef capital of the world. Nice. And Bud says, beef. The stream always comes back to food eventually. It does. It always does. And Chad Ruth says, Butcher Box sponsors a U.S. cycling team. Nice. Nice. I think that's a great, it makes a lot of sense. It makes so much sense. You know what else I've been thinking about is there was the, for the American Track League, the ATL, which always makes me think, oh, Atlanta Track Club's doing something. But it's not Atlanta Track Club. It's the American Track League. They've been putting on like these weekly track meets. And a couple of weeks ago, there was the Blankenship Women's Mile because he sponsored an event. And so like not only in like the race listing for the day, like of the order of events and who all like the entrants were, it said Blankenship Women's Mile. But also when they put it on TV, like when, you know, they have like the lower third and it says like what the event is, it said Blankenship Women's Mile. And then I think it was another Olympic athlete. I forget her name, Tatiana something, TB or her initials. She just sponsored, I think, the women's 60 meters for the next meet coming up. And like, I feel like they're trying to get this like thing rolling and make it like a thing that it happens. And it's just like, I wonder how much it costs to sponsor an event. That'd be kind of funny to have like a Kofuzi pole vault. I don't know. I think it's probably cost more than I would be willing to spend on something that I was like, oh, that's funny. But I kind of do want to, I would love to have like a YouTubers, like the shoe tubers 3,200 on the track. Like that'd be great. Well, it'd probably be 2 mile, not 3,200, or maybe the shoe tubers like 1,500 meters. That'd be funny. Or like the pull tab 60 meters. Or like the boost is life 200 meter. That'd be pretty funny. Matt says, I bet sponsoring an event is cheaper than we think. These track meets are hurting for revenue. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I don't want to get in there and be like, oh, how much does this cost? Because I'm assuming as more of it happens, then I'm assuming each time it'll go up. So I'm assuming there's not like going to be like a revenue schedule, right? Or a rate schedule. But like, I don't know. Are we talking 5 figures? We're talking 4 figures. If it's less than 4 figures, I'll do it. But like, I mean, if it's like a couple $100, yeah, I'll do an event a couple times. I just think that'd be awesome, and it'd be a great way to support the sport. Which is a weird thing, you know. Like, who was it that put out a tweet? Was it Bromka? Someone put out, yeah, I think it was Bromka. I was like, why are these events that are USATF sanctioned events struggling so much to put events together when there's a governing body that is sponsored for the next 20 years, I think, by Nike, you know? So there was kind of like that kind of weirdness to it all. But yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to, I think that'd just be funny. I mean, I'm sure we'd have to go back and forth because they'd be like, no, we're not going to put anything like that anyone might think is mocking the event. So, you know, so we'll have to think of something that we could do that will still be fun, but not without that has the least possibility of people taking it the wrong way. Matt says, I bet it's low 4 figures. That's like in the area where I'm like, that's interesting. I could write it off as a marketing expense. So it'd be interesting. Yeah, Scott says, that's funny when I make myself laugh. Yeah, I do. I mean, it comes to the territory of loving dad jokes. You know, you got to be able to make yourself laugh. Carlos says, for a beginner at trails, Peg Trail 2 or Terra Kiger 6? I think they're both pretty similar. I might go with the Peg Trail 2 because I think it's just a little bit better for on the roads. I didn't try the Terra Kiger 6, though, but I did try the Terra Kiger 5. I will be picking up the Terra Kiger 7 this year. Hopefully, I'll be able to plan another trip out to Scottsdale because that's where I tested at the Terra Kiger 5. And normally I go for a work conference, which would normally be like in like a month from now. I'm probably not going to go to that work conference anymore since I'm retired from that job. But I'd love to just plan another trip when it's feasible to go up into the hills in Scottsdale again. But yeah, but I'd say the Peg Trail 2 is probably better for beginner at trails. And by that, I mean like someone with like my level of kind of proficiency at trail run. Mark wants to know, how do you run a virtual marathon? How does it work? The way that, I mean, I guess it could vary, but typically you have to have some sort of way of tracking yourself. So I'm not sure how like they deal with it if people are using their phone to track it and they're in an urban area like in Chicago where like there were times when I was using the Strava app and recording the activity directly in the Strava app where it would tell me I was running like 3-minute miles just because the GPS ping would like jump all over the place, or the GPS signal. And so like I don't know how they like kind of, you know, figure that out, but you're supposed to like either link to your Strava activity or link, you know what I mean? So like, or I've done when I did the trial of miles, there was like that, it was kind of like a cross country tournament, which I don't know how I got out of the first round, but I did make it past the first round. They said you could either send us your Strava link to your activity or upload a GPX file. Either one of those two. I think I did both just to be safe. So that's how you do it. So you'd record it some other way, either with your watch or something, and then you submit it. Like I know with like what started to worry me about some of those is like, you know, right around when was it Boston? I think it was London. When London went virtual for, you know, non-elites, people were running that and like submitting their times, and you know, some of them people were like on treadmills, and I was like, ooh, I wouldn't count like a virtual like self time. I mean, I personally I feel like chip time is the real time, and everything else is like a nice practice run. You can use it as a reference for how well you can do, but like it's not an official time in my mind. But people like whenever I run a marathon, it's never 26.2 miles. It's always longer because you're running a course and you're never perfectly on the tangents, and you know that's all part of the race. So people are running exactly 26.2, you know, when they do a lot of their runs on their watch. So they're getting good times, and that's great. And then people were also submitting times that they would run on a treadmill, and I was like, ooh, that's interesting, because for me, anytime I get on a treadmill, the treadmill is always very generous, it seems. So yeah, you know, so but that's basically how it works. All right. David Lidstone's here. What's going on, David? And I think I saw Super Smoltz. Good to see you here too. Shannon's here as well. David said, I watched your Chicago Marathon the full way through today. It's so inspiring. Looks great. It's a great event. I love it, and I really hope it gets to go this year. I would love to be able to run it this year. I'm really hoping for it. Ben Y wants to know, what do you think about Savory oatmeal? My friend swears by them, but I just can't bring myself to put a fried egg and salt in my oats. I'm the kind of guy that put a fried egg on anything. That's usually how I eat leftover curry, or even leftover like Chinese food the next day. There's a lot of leftovers that I will just heat up in the microwave and fry an egg and then put the fried egg on top. So I've never had an egg in like the oatmeal. But I've had oatmeal and eggs before. But then again, I don't really like oatmeal. I like oatmeal flavored things. I like granola. I just don't like really oatmeal all that much. All right, let's get down on the bottom. Sorry if I'm behind. Tab says they've forbidden treadmill times in this year's London Marathon. It has to be outside and have to use their tracking app. Oh, okay. So maybe their tracking app probably has a smoothing algorithm that figures out if it jumps real fast, then it wasn't real. Nice. Steven Gerzer says peanut butter with bacon bits in it. I could see that being tasty. Jeff Elliott says, I think congee is rice, but it's definitely porridge adjacent, and it has eggs in it. Okay. All right. Yeah. And Ed said that his wife, Mrs. Ed Bud, does strange things to porridge oats, and it's just wrong. Oh, it's funny. And then it says traditionally Scottish porridge is salted, and I can't stand it though. Interesting. And Mark says eggs in Korean hot pots are delicious. I mean, maybe that's why, because Korean people put an egg on everything. You know, my dad used to, I don't know, was my mom here? My dad tell me these stories about like growing up in Korea. And now he grew up, I think he was like, he was born right before the Korean War started. So like his childhood years was in like immediate aftermath of the Korean War. And he lived in somewhat rural Korea. And he would tell me that like between him and his brothers and sisters, two stories that I remember from my dad is that one is that he used to have this rabbit and he would ride his bicycle with a rabbit in the basket to the edge of town where there was grass so that the bunny could eat grass. Now there's a lot of holes in this story. There's things that a lot of it that doesn't make sense. Like how did the rabbit not run away, for example? But this is a story that he swears is true. The other story that I remember my dad telling me from his childhood is that like he would get to eat an egg once a year on his birthday. Like that was the birthday present, an egg. And so I don't know if this is just something he made up to make me eat my eggs growing up, but I've always really valued eggs. And Korean people put eggs on everything. So, I mean, it's good. It's delicious. But those are actual stories that I remember my dad telling me. Now, you know what? If I'm going to ask my dad about it. I'm going to call him later. I'll tell you guys. I'll let you guys know the follow-up. I wonder if he remembers telling me these stories. That'd be interesting. Scott says, if the Chicago gets canceled, come run the New Jersey Marathon 10/16. Maybe. I mean, I think if Chicago gets canceled, I mean, it depends on what kind of shape I'm in and how late they cancel it. I have a feeling if they cancel it, they'll cancel it really early on to give me plenty of like kind of notice. That I will either try and find a much smaller marathon to run locally, or, and I think there'll be a lot, because I think a lot of the the spring marathons in this area, in this region, are all like currently like postponing to October. So I think I'll probably do that. Or I might just go straight to like, ultra distance training and just be like, all right, just kind of like slow it down and just put in a lot of miles, try and find like 100K somewhere to race. So I might do that. That's probably where things will go for me. But like, if I'm feeling like I'm really good and I'm like, I got a shot at having a good time, like a really good marathon finishing time, I don't know. I might try and find a nice flat course. Is the New Jersey Marathon, is that the one that's like it's like Asbury Park? Is that one in that area? I heard that one's really flat and a high percentage of like Boston qualifying. I mean, I'd be hopefully shooting for something faster than a BQ, but gives you an indicator of like if it's a flat fast course or not. Jason Dahl said, I ran the virtual New York City Marathon and had similar GPS issues running in downtown Chicago, but they accepted the results. I wasn't breaking any world records, so I don't think it raised any flags. Yeah, but I think what'll be tricky, though, is when people are going to then use those times to try and qualify for Boston. So I don't know how that's going to work. If you need to have an actual chip time, I'm guessing you probably need to have a chip time to be able to submit that as a result. But I actually haven't looked at the Boston rules close enough. All right. And then Martha says, my father was working for the U.S. Treasury during the Korean War. And at one point he was in North Korea and said it was the coldest he ever was in his life. And he grew up in Milwaukee. That's got to be cold then. Milwaukee's a very cold city. Yeah. I've heard it just gets brutally cold up there, but I don't know. Harry Hughes says, what stories like this do you tell your kids? I tell them stories about internet and Saturday morning cartoons. So I tell my kids stories about like, we didn't have 24-hour Disney Junior growing up. And then my kids are like, then what did you watch when it was really late at night? I'm like, you didn't watch. And they're like, so you didn't have an iPad? I'm like, there was no such thing as iPad. Then what did you stream? There was no such thing as internet. So they're like, no. You're telling me that you had to wait till Saturday morning to watch 2 hours of cartoons and that was it for the weekend? I'm like, yeah. So like, they don't believe me. So that's the ones that I tell my kids. Meredith Rosen wants to know, what are the Chicago dates? Chicago Marathon is October 10th. So it's 10/10. So I feel like that's auspicious. It's good luck. It's a nice repetition, and I like repetitions of numbers, so like I feel like it's good. I hope it's good. We'll see. Oh, Mark Saltzman says, my dad served in the Air Force during the Korean War. Wow. That's cool. Dr. Fung said, did your dad also walk to school 6 miles uphill both ways without shoes? I'm assuming he rode the bike, the one with the bike with the basket for the bunny. But maybe I can try to trip him up, see if that story is true, ask him how he got to school. I don't remember how he got to school. Yeah. All right. I thought I saw something. Someone was asking a training question. I'm sorry if I missed it. Carla says, you should try the Terrapin half marathon. It's a half marathon that's on a mountain with crazy climbs and very trail and rugged. I mean, that doesn't sound like anything that I would enjoy. I feel like I would get lost. I would fall down. Yeah, I'd probably cry. Had people seen the Seth video where he ran? Was it he competed? Was it it wasn't a 50K, was it? Was it a 100K? It was an epic journey, and he went through all of the emotions in that. I feel like that's exactly what would happen to me based on the description of this half marathon. Although for a half marathon, I'll gut it out, I guess. A lot of like the digestive issues and like the super deep bonk, like you're not going to get that in a half marathon. I mean, maybe depends on how crazy the climbs really are. Where was that, in Maryland? Is it Terrapin? And Martha says, Martha always knows the Boston rules. Boston qualifying times will date back to 9/18, but once they open registration, which is likely by April, no one will be able to use summer, early fall marathons to register, obviously. Okay. All right. Well, that's a long way back to reach back. Because if you're trying to get to like a 2021 fall, you're looking back 3 years. 3 years. That's a long way. But yeah, once they open registration, no one will be able to use summer and early fall marathons to register. Yeah, because it'll be too late. It'll be too late. So it'll have to be stuff from most people will be pre-pandemic unless you run an actual race in that time. Jody says Mike's story to his grandkids that they won't believe is that he used to run to the edge of town to the tallest cornfield to make mountains of poop. I think they probably won't. They'd be like, you just pooped wherever you wanted. I'm like, well, it's not where I wanted to poop. It's where I had to poop. But yeah, that'll be one for sure. Yeah. Yana says, when I did a 5K virtual race, my Strava said I ran 25:18. The system where I was supposed to upload my GPS file, someone calculated 25:28, even though I didn't stop on the run. Yeah, what happened to me on the when I did the trial of miles thing and I submitted my Strava link, it was supposed to be an 8K, I think, or maybe it was a 5K. I did two. I did a 5K and an 8K, but one of them, I think it was the 8K. Like the Strava time, it was the other way around, where I ran, let's say, whatever the time was for that 8K. I don't remember. I should go look at that for reference. What was that 8K? But whatever the time was, but it looked like that I had run a little bit long on it. And so what they were able to do was to look at the Strava thing and then just not edit it, but like figure out how long it took me to run I think it was the 5K. So how long it took me to run 5K. So they were like, all right, your time says this, but we're going to shave off 4 seconds because that's how long it took you to run the 5K. So that's what they did for that. So I don't know, but it seems to go the other way could be interesting. It could be though, because of the way that I think it's something that happens, which is why, like, if you look at any run, like if you look at when you upload data, like my watch I sync it syncs whether I'm using Garmin or Polar or whatever. It goes to that service's website, like either Garmin or the Polar's website, and then that pushes to Strava. And what it pushes isn't like the total numbers. It doesn't push like 5K this many minutes. It pushes the GPX file, which is like, every second where was my location. And each service will independently figure out, okay, here's what the distance was, and here's what the route was, and here's how fast this runner was going. So that could be why I did it. If depending on the system, whatever its like smoothing algorithm is, it could give you a different time. So that could be the reason why. Jeff Elliott says, my spoiled children have been able to watch any show or movie they have ever seen at any time because I used to have a home theater thing. So I had everything local and all the streaming. Yeah, I know. My kids too. I think I've told you guys a story of like the one time, it was maybe 2 winters ago, or maybe it was a lot. I think it was like 2 winters ago, where it was so cold, the power, like the internet went out, but like cable was still working. It was a weird situation. Like the city was like falling apart. And, they had to watch TV, and like the commercials came on, and they were like, Dad, skip the ad, skip it. Can you hit the button, skip the ad? And I was like, you can't skip these commercials. And they're like, what are commercials? I was like, commercials are ads. What, can you skip it? No, you cannot skip. You cannot skip commercials. You have to watch them. You're watching live TV. What's live TV? You're watching it. You can't pick what's on next, and you can't skip the commercials or the ads. And they're like, what? I'm like, all TV used to be this way. And they were like, whoa. So yeah, that actually happened. 1989 Todd says, hello from Bulgaria. I have my first ultra coming next month, 75K, unaided. Any tips you might have for training or anything will be great. You're awesome, by the way. Thanks, 1989 Todd. I would say, any tips for training? It's coming next month. I would say, I'm not sure how much more you can do in the next month for a 75-kilometer unaided run. But I will say, enjoy your time out there, pace yourself, and make sure to bring plenty of food and water, or whatever hydration you're bringing. That's what I would say. Right. Well, good luck on the 75K. Awesome. Stephen Gerger said, what's a good breed of dog for a running partner? I think a lot of people here can probably attest to that. The dog that I thought ran the best with me, well, there was what was that black dog that ran with me? It wasn't a lab, was it? I don't think it was a Labrador. That dog ran just fine with me for lots of miles. But I would say the other dog that ran with me that like could have easily run like even further, a German short-haired pointer, GSP, just like found me and ran with me for a half a marathon in the summer, and it didn't even stop for water. Although I suspect at one point it probably found like a creek or something and drank some water because it got soaked at some point. Yeah, that dog was great. And then I think like a sheepdog would also be great because those dogs just run all day anyway. So those would be some that I would look at. I think like the other dogs like Wislas would also be really good because they just run all the time. Yeah, I think that would be another one to look at. Ted Ruth says, on the subject of cold, try canoeing, kayaking in Scottish lochs and rivers during the winter. Just don't fall in. Highly unrecommended. Oh, goodness. Cold and wet. That's just like a terrible combination. I can't imagine it. And Dr. Funk 1216 says, I bet our parents thought we were spoiled because we had television while they had radio. I imagine so. Well, I mean, my dad was like, you had 2 eggs for breakfast today and yesterday, So that's kind of what my dad would have said. Tab Wonder says, you were lucky to live in a house. We used to live in one room, all 26 of us, no furniture. Half the floor was missing, and we were all huddled together in one corner for fear of falling. It reminds me of a tweet that I've been seeing kind of going around a lot of like a lot of like late 20-somethings are like, I didn't really think that I'd be spending like the hottest years of my life living like the grandparents and Willy Wonka, but here we are. Hopefully the pandemic will be over soon. So it kind of reminds me of that. All right, let's get one more and then I gotta get going for the day. George Monroy says, Mike, how's it going? Not sure if you answered this before, but what brought you back to Chicago? Oh yeah. Well, we had we have a lot of medical appointments that we've been putting off for a really long time, basically all of us. And we're like, we can't keep doing that anymore. There's stuff we have to take care of. The main one being like the children's dentist visits, which we just did those. And like, we really should have come back a lot sooner because now we got some problems, but, I mean, for the most part, they're with the baby teeth and they're going to fall out anyway. But anyway, the dentist doesn't have as a laissez-faire attitude about that as I do, but we should have come back sooner. So, but that's the reason we came back. And then at this point, we're not sure what like the game plan is going to be. I still have to take care of some stuff at the office, and figure that out. So there's just stuff where we need to like kind of wrap up, or take care of and address that we've been putting off for the 7 months we were in Iowa. And then we'll see if we go back or if we're like, if the vaccines are on the horizon here, and virtual school is still an option for my daughter, then we might go back, but we'll see how things go. So, all right. I think that's a good place to end it for today, everybody. And Carlos says that Terrapin Half Marathon is in Virginia, not Maryland. All right. But that's it for today. Tomorrow's video is going to be about the 1080 version 11. Took that out for a spin earlier this week. I gave you my thoughts on that. And then we'll do another live stream in the afternoon, same time as today, 3 p.m. Central Time. Hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. Thanks, everybody. In the meantime, until I see you again, be safe out there.